The living room feels like a stage I've been performing on my whole life. The same old setting, the same roles, but never the same recognition. I sit on the edge of the floral armchair, the one that stayed in this exact spot for over 20 years. Its cushions worn by family gatherings, laughter, and whispered arguments. Outside, Christmas lights sparkle through frosted windows, their colors bouncing off the framed photographs that line the polished mahogany shelves. Vacations to beaches, graduations under bright skies, birthday parties with wide grins, pictures that show smiles. But mine always looked just a little forced, a little strained, as if I was pretending to belong in a family portrait where my place was never quite clear. The fireplace crackles, logs splitting and glowing, filling the room with a golden warmth that doesn't reach me. The heat doesn't chase away the chill forming in my chest, the same chill I've carried for years. Suddenly, Juliet's shrill squeal cuts through the moment like glass shattering. She rips at the gold wrapping paper of a tiny box, her eyes wide as if she's unwrapping magic itself. "Mum, Dad, it's exactly what I wanted." Her voice trembles with delight. $4,300 you shouldn't have. Out of the box she lifts a cream-colored Gucci marmot bag, holding it in her arms as if it were a fragile newborn. She presses it against her chest, the designer logo catching the light with a flash that blinds me more than the fire or the twinkling lights. She's 26, but right now, bouncing on her knees and squealing, she seems 16 again. Spoiled and shining. Mom single quotes S face lights up with pride, eyes glowing. Only the best for our baby girl. Dad leans back in his chair, nodding with approval. You deserve it, princess. Their words settle heavy in the room as the attention remains fixed on Juliet. The noise fades as I reach for my own gift, a small envelope decorated with a snowflake sticker. I open it carefully, fingers steady from years of practice at moments like this. Inside, I find only a $2 paper card, a winter scene printed with snow-covered mountains. The words "Season's Greetings" stare back at me in generic block letters. No note in my mother's handwriting. No slip of money. No thought, no heart. I keep my expression smooth. But inside, something breaks in silence. Something that's been fragile for years. 29 years of waiting, hoping, wishing, collapsing all at once with the weight of one cheap card. From across the room, Aunt Margaret's eyes catch mine. Her mouth parts slightly, and for a second I see raw shock, pity, recognition. She quickly masks it. But I know. She knows. She sees what I've carried. Dad clears his throat and checks his watch, tugging on the band. We should leave for the restaurant by 7. Traffic will be bad. Mum, avoiding my gaze, busies herself with Juliet's eggnog glass, refilling it like she hasn't seen me at all. Look how the leather shines. Juliet laughs, twirling around the living room with her new treasure. It goes with everything I own. My hands, steady until now, finally betray me with a faint tremor as I fold the flimsy card and slip it into my pocket. It isn't just paper, it's proof of my invisibility, a souvenir of the role I've been forced into all my life. Just hours earlier, I stood in my small Portland apartment, wrapping gifts I had chosen with aching care. My teacher's salary, $57,000 a year, already stretched thin by student loans and rent, but I had been saving for months for this one day. I'd wanted to give them something meaningful, something they could hold, something that said, I see you. For Mom, I'd bought an Italian silk scarf for $180, the blue patterns chosen to match her eyes. I wrapped it in silver paper and tied a bow 3 times until it sat just right. She'll love this, I whispered to myself. For Dad, a Parker pen, $145, engraved with his initials, sitting in a velvet box. He had once mentioned needing a new one for his client meetings. I thought maybe he'd smile when he saw it. And for Juliet, I chose a rare art book, $120, with a note tucked inside about the exhibit we'd promised to see together years ago, but never did. Maybe this Christmas will finally be different, I told the mirror that morning as I applied mascara, carefully brushing away the smudges of doubt. Hope is a stubborn thing, growing even where frost has lingered for years. Now I stand up slowly, smoothing the fabric of my skirt as the celebration carries on around me, everyone comfortable in their roles. Juliet snaps Instagram photos of her bag, making sure the light catches the logo. Dad pours himself another bourbon. Mum fusses with cookies on a vintage platter, arranging them just so. I think I need some fresh air, I say, steadying my voice against the storm in my chest. No one responds. No one even looks except Aunt Margaret. She crosses the room and lays her hand firmly on my shoulder. Her touch a secret language only I understand. Her grip says everything her lips barely whisper. You're not wrong, she murmurs softly. You deserve so much more. I swallow hard, give a single nod, and fetch my coat from the hall closet. The wool scratches at my wrists as I button it from bottom to top, each button fastening not just fabric but resolve. No one notices when I step out the front door, the laughter and warmth of the house fading behind me. The silence outside is sharp and complete. Snowflakes cling to the walkway as I cross it, my boots crunching softly against the ice. I reach my car, its roof dusted with fresh snow, and slide behind the wheel. The drive to Council Crest Park takes 12 minutes. I park at the overlook, the city stretched below like spilled stars across a black canvas. Portland continues its Christmas Eve, a city alive with light and rhythm, blind to the fact that I sit here alone, keeping vigil with nothing but the echo of a broken tradition. When did I become invisible to them? I whisper, watching my breath fog the windshield. No one answers. I reach into my pocket and pull out the card. Thin, cheap paper, but in my hands it feels heavy. The weight of 29 years. The symbol of a lifetime of being dismissed. I clutch it, my fingers shaking, and finally let my tears fall. They burn hot trails down my frozen skin as the city lights blur into smeared watercolors. 29 years of hoping for equal love. And now, I see it clearly, it will never come. I would tell them that sometimes the family we're born into isn't equipped to see our value. I close the photo albums, tuck away the ledger of financial inequities, and stack everything neatly in a storage box. Not to forget, to preserve the evidence, to remind myself on weekdays that this isn't imagined. This isn't overreaction. The pattern is real. The erasure is documented. And for the first time, I'm allowing myself to see it clearly. When did you realize a painful pattern in your life needed to change? 6 weeks later, I am already into the new job position. And I am completely focused only on myself. The sun streams through the windows of the pottery studio as I sink my fingers into cool clay. The wheel spins, my hands guide, and something beautiful emerges from nothing. I've been coming here every Saturday morning for 6 weeks straight. The $250 receipt, fourth course, pinned to my kitchen calendar with a magnet that declares investment in myself. You've got a natural feel for this, Elise, says Miranda, the instructor. Her silver-streaked hair falls across her face as she leans over to examine my work. Most beginners fight the clay. You're learning to collaborate with it. The metaphor isn't lost on me. For 29 years, I've been fighting against my family's perception of me, instead of building something new with the materials at hand. Thank you, I say, applying gentle pressure to form the lip of what will become a serving bowl. I'm trying to be more patient with the process, not just with clay, but with myself. The words from yesterday's therapy session echo in my mind as clearly as if Dr. Williams was standing beside me. Your worth isn't measured by their recognition. $90 per session, money I once would have spent on elaborate gifts for people who never appreciated them. Now those funds build my interior landscape instead. Last night, I removed the last family photo from my living room wall. The space now holds 3 framed prints I selected from a local artist. Images of solitary trees standing strong against stormy skies. My bookshelf has transformed too, filling with volumes I've chosen for myself rather than the literary classics my father insisted represented cultured people. My phone buzzes. Mother's name appears on the screen with her weekly attempt to restore the old dynamics. Elise, dear, I was thinking you should host Easter dinner this year. Juliet is so busy with her new project, and it would give you a chance to show everyone your cooking skills. The ellipsis in her voice carries the weight of unspoken judgment. 3 months ago, I would have agreed immediately, desperate to prove my worth through failed eggs in a spotless apartment. Today, I set down my clay-covered hands and type a simple response. I'm not available to host Easter this year. I have prior commitments. No explanation, no apology, just a boundary. Clear as the line between wet clay and table. Very nice, says Miranda, nodding at my bowl. Your center. I am, in more ways than one. Monday morning brings unexpected validation at school. Principal Harrington calls me into his office, sliding my teacher evaluation across his desk with a rare smile warming his typically stern face. This is exceptional work, Elise. The student responses to your creative writing unit were remarkable. I've never seen engagement numbers like these. I accept the folder, scanning the comments from students. One jumps out. Miss Turner's assignment about writing our life story from a different perspective changed how I see myself. I never thought about being the hero instead of the victim. The words land in my chest like a warm stone. All those years feeling invisible, and here I am, helping others see themselves more clearly. There's something else, Principal Harrington continues. We need someone to lead the summer writing program. Your independent spirit is exactly what we need. It comes with a stipend, of course. The word independent no longer stings, as it once did when my mother used it to justify her neglect. Now it carries the weight of respect. I'd be honored, I reply, straightening my shoulders. That afternoon, I receive an email inviting me to present at a regional education conference. My finger hovers over the delete button. My first instinct to assume it's been sent to me by mistake. Then I remember Dr. Williams' words, assume you deserve good things until proven otherwise. I click accept instead. Later that evening, I open my banking app and transfer $500 into the account labeled Home Down Payment, the first deposit of many. A home that will truly be mine. Not a space I occupy at the edges of someone else's life. The phone rings at midnight. Juliet's sobbing voice fills my ear before I can even say hello. He broke up with me, Elise. I can't believe it. Derek just walked out after dinner. I need you to come over. I can't be alone right now. The old Elise would have jumped from bed, thrown on clothes, and driven across town at unsafe speeds to comfort her sister. The woman I'm becoming takes a breath. I'm so sorry that happened, Juliet. I can talk tomorrow during my lunch break. What? I need you now. This is serious. I understand you're hurting. I'm available at noon tomorrow. My time matters too. The shocked silence stretches between us. A new territory neither of us has mapped before. I guess I could wait until tomorrow. Juliet finally whispers. Then, something I've never heard from her before. I'm sorry, Elise. I didn't think about what time at Island. After we hang up, I lie awake, half expecting the follow-up call from Mother, outraged at my selfishness. It comes at 1:07 p.m., her angry voice filling my voicemail with familiar accusations. I delete it, without listening to the end. In weeks to come, My support network expands like ripples in still water. Robert, the history teacher whose classroom sits across from mine, stops by my desk after the final bell. I was wondering if you'd like to have dinner Friday, he says, his hands fidgeting with a paperclip. Just as friends. But I've always admired your students. Aunt Margaret arrives for a weekend visit, unfolding grandmother's quilt across my bed with reverent hands. She always saw your light, Elise, even when others didn't, Margaret says, smoothing the faded fabric. She left this specifically for you, because she knew you'd appreciate its story. My pottery classmates organize a hiking trip to Mount Hood. My therapist notes how my posture has changed, opening like a flower turning towards sundial at a staff meeting. When the athletic director dismisses my suggestion about incorporating creative writing into physical education, my colleague Sandra speaks up. Elise has been saying this for years. The research supports her approach. The family group text pings with cousin Caleb's wedding announcement for June. Everyone responds with enthusiastic acceptance. I type simply, I'll attend, but I'll drive separately. Mother's private text arrives within minutes. Why are you being difficult? I consider a dozen responses before settling on truth without malice. Setting healthy boundaries isn't being difficult. In my calendar, I created the entry. Wedding, 2 hours maximum. Bring Robert. We've been dating for a while. The balcony garden I've started flourishes with herbs and native wildflowers. As evening light filters through the leaves, I sit with my journal open on my lap. The pages contain fewer questions now, more declarations. Today I write. Growth requires both distance and nourishment. My fingers, still faintly stained with clay, trace the words. What seeds of self-respect are you ready to plant in your own life? The question rises unbidden as I watch a bee navigate between blossoms, purposeful in its journey. The answer blooms within me, stronger than any doubt could overwhelm, ones that will finally allow me to thrive. And in months to come, I will finally show my family who I am. On the day of the wedding, 3 months later, I step out of Robert's car, smoothing the fabric of my sage green dress. The simple silk falls just below my knees, affordable elegance that took 3 months of careful budgeting. You look beautiful, Robert whispers, his hand finding the small of my back. The country club sprawls before us, manicured lawns stretching toward Mount Hood in the distance. Cousin Caleb chose well for his wedding venue, though I wonder how Uncle George afforded it on his hardware store income. Ready? Robert asks. I nod, more truthfully than I've ever been. 6 months of therapy and boundary setting have armored me for this family gathering. Juliet spots us immediately, waving frantically from the entrance. Her sequined cocktail dress catches the afternoon sunlight, sending prisms dancing across the pavement. Too formal for a garden wedding. But that's Juliet, always one notch above appropriate. Elise, you actually came. She air kisses near my cheek, perfume clouding between us. And you brought a friend? Robert Thompson, he says, extending his hand. Elise's colleague. And more, I add firmly, we've been dating for 3 months. Juliet's perfectly plucked eyebrows rise. Mum didn't mention that. Mum doesn't know everything about my life anymore. Before she can respond, Mum appears, her smile stretched thin as worn elastic. Her eyes dart between us, landing on my simple gold necklace. The dress, Robert's steady presence. Elise, darling, her hug feels mechanical. Your apartment must be getting cramped with company these days. Have you thought about upgrading? The old familiar sting threatens, but I breathe through it. My apartment suits me perfectly. Dad approaches, tugging at his collar. The suit hangs looser than I remember. There's my independent girl, he says, patting my shoulder awkwardly. Your apartment must be getting too small for you now. Same script, different Turner. I simply smile. Aunt Margaret rescues me, swooping in with a genuine embrace. "Look at you," she whispers, standing tall. She glances over her shoulder before adding, "Your parents are having financial troubles. Thomas's investments tanked." The ceremony passes in a blur of white tulle and promises. During the reception, I noticed details that would have escaped me before. Dad arguing with the photographer in harsh whispers about payment terms. Mom's handbag, not her usual Prada, but a well-worn leather clutch with a small scuff on the corner. And most telling, Juliet's panicked expression when the bartender returns her credit card, shaking his head. The garden behind the reception hall offers temporary escape. Roses climb trellises, their June blooms heavy with perfume. I breathe deeply, counting backward from 10 Dr. Williams' technique for processing surprise with attraction. Running away again? I turn to find Juliet, her mascara slightly smudged at the corners. Taking a moment, I correct her. The difference matters. She slumps onto a stone bench, unexpectedly graceless. "You're different now." Yes. I realized how unfair everything was. The words tumble out, unpracticed. "I'm sorry, Elise." I wait, years of experience teaching me that Juliet's apologies often come with conditions. "They can't support me anymore." She continues, voice cracking. "Dad's business is collapsing. The condo's being sold. My credit cards are maxed out." I sit beside her, maintaining careful inches between us. "That sounds difficult." "I never learned to stand on my own like you did." A tear tracks through her foundation. "I didn't know how to live on what I actually earn." The sunset paints the garden in amber light, turning Juliet's sequins into tiny flames. We sit in silence, the first comfortable quiet between us since childhood. Back inside, Dad corners me near the cake table. "You've always been good with finances," he begins, voice unusually hesitant. "Teachers have excellent retirement planning skills." I sip my champagne, waiting. "We might need some advice. Family helping family, you know." Before I can respond, relatives swarm around us. "Elise, heard you got department head." Uncle George booms. "Always knew you'd be successful." Mom appears at my elbow. "Elise was always our practical one," she says, her fingers nervously twisting her wedding band. "So responsible." Across the room, Robert chats with his sister who drove up from Salem. She's the most respected teacher at her school. I overhear him say, pride warming his voice. Juliet approaches, subdued. "Do you know about affordable apartments in Portland? Maybe with roommates?" The irony isn't lost on me after years of invisibility. Suddenly everyone sees me. Not for who I am, but for what I might provide. When Dad mentions temporary family assistance later, I maintain polite distance without cruelty. I'm not in a position to help financially. I tell him directly. My budget is carefully balanced with my own needs. To Juliet, I offer what she actually needs. Start with a budget and roommates. It's how I survived my first 3 years teaching. 2. Mom attempts guilt her specialty. "We always supported you. Emotionally or financially?" I ask quietly. Her silence answers more truthfully than words could. At 9, I find Robert by the bar. "Ready to leave?" I ask. The relief in his eyes mirrors my own. "Whenever you are." We slip away during the bouquet toss, driving toward Cannon Beach rather than returning to Portland. The night air carries salt and freedom as we walk barefoot along the shoreline, shows dangling from our fingers. "You handled that beautifully," Robert says. I watch the moonlight ripple across the Pacific. Sometimes the greatest gift is seeing clearly. The waves crash and retreat, a rhythm older than family patterns. I wonder how many others have found strength in walking away from expectations that never served them, choosing instead the uncertain path of self-respect. The ocean doesn't answer, but somehow I no longer need it to. A week after the wedding, I arrived at my parents' house exactly at 6, parking the Honda next to Dad's Lexus that now shows patches of rust around the wheel wells. 2 hours. That's all I've allocated for this important family discussion. My watch timer is already set. The front porch light flickers weakly as I approach. No Christmas wreath adorns the door this June evening, but the familiar weight of expectation hangs heavy in the spring air. I knock instead of using my key. Mum answers, her smile too bright, her hug too tight. "Elise, you look wonderful. That promotion agrees with you." I step into the living room, where the furniture seems oddly rearranged that the Italian leather sectional has vanished, replaced by a generic beige sofa. Family photos still line the walls, but the expensive crystal vase that normally dominates the coffee table is missing. Dad rises from his armchair, his shoulders slightly stooped. "Punctual as always, Elise. I have a morning staff meeting tomorrow," I explain. "I can stay until 8. Juliet sits in the corner armchair, her fingers twisting in her lap. She offers a small wave, but remains unusually quiet. Mom bustles in with a tray of coffee cups. "I made your favorite lemon cookies." Family needs to stick together during challenging times. Dad begins without preamble. He paces before the fireplace where no fire burns, despite the evening chill. The Turner name has always stood for something in this community. Mum sits beside me, her hand reaching for mine. "We've always been so proud of you, Elise. Your independence, your determination, that teaching award. You've never needed much from us." My skin prickles with familiar recognition. The script hasn't changed, just the circumstances. I sip my coffee and wait. The market downturn has been particularly brutal for the investment firm. Dad continues, his voice straining for its usual authority. "Our portfolio. Well, there have been significant losses. The bank has been calling about the mortgage." Mom adds, her voice dropping to a whisper. "We might lose the house." Dad clears his throat. "Juliet's lease renewal is coming up next month. That downtown apartment complex raised the rates again." Mum squeezes my hand. "We noticed your school district announced that new department head position, the one with the substantial raise." The pieces click into place with perfect clarity. I set my coffee cup down carefully on the table. "We're just wondering if you might temporarily help with Juliet's expenses." Dad says the word temporarily, stretching thin between us. "Just until things stabilize. Family helping family," Mom adds, her smile wobbling. "You've always been our rock." The room falls silent. Juliet studies her expensive manicure, shame coloring her cheeks. I need to say something that's long overdue. My voice sounds steadier than I feel. I reach into my purse and withdraw the Christmas card, now slightly worn at the edges from the months I've carried it. I place it on the coffee table. This was the moment I finally saw the truth. Dad glances at the card dismissively. "A Christmas card? Really, Elise? We're discussing serious financial matters here. This isn't about money." I trace the paper mountain scene with my finger. This is about 29 years of messages that I matter less. Juliet's sweet 16 at the Benson Hotel while my 13th birthday was celebrated with a grocery store cake. My college scholarship, with your note that I should work part-time, while you fully funded Juliet's fashion school, and her semester in Italy. Mom single quotes S-face drains of color. "We never meant." "I don't believe you did it consciously," I continue, "but it happened consistently. Every birthday, every Christmas. Every milestone." "That's ridiculous." Dad's face flushes with indignation. "We gave you everything you needed, but never what she wanted," Juliet says suddenly. All eyes turn to her. She's right. We've always treated her as less important. I've watched it my whole life and benefited from it. Dad's mouth opens, then closes. The foundation of family mythology cracks visibly before my eyes. This isn't about punishing anyone, I say. But if we want a relationship moving forward, it starts with respect and equality. So you won't help your sister. Mum's tears spill freely now, genuine rather than strategic. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I won't be the family's financial solution while the pattern continues. I won't fund Juliet's luxury apartment when I've struggled to afford my own place. I won't contribute to a dynamic where I give everything and receive nothing. After all we've done for you. Dad's voice rises sharply, revealing his true expectations. This is how you repay us? I'm offering something better than money. I reply, my voice level. I'm offering honesty. I'm offering the chance for a relationship built on mutual respect rather than obligation. She doesn't owe us, Juliet says quietly. None of this is her responsibility. The silence that follows feels like the first honest moment we've shared in decades. I stand, smoothing my skirt. I need acknowledgement of what's happened. I need my boundaries respected. I'm willing to help Juliet find an affordable apartment, create a budget, apply for jobs. But I won't sacrifice my financial security or self-respect. Mum's shoulders shake with silent sobs. Dad stares out the window, his back rigid with pride. Think about what I've said. I gather my purse. I'll let myself out. The night air feels cleansing as I walk to my car. Stars pierce the darkness overhead, witnesses to a truth finally spoken. I realize, starting the engine, that the truth doesn't need to be harsh to be powerful. It simply needs to be spoken. What truth have you needed to speak, even when others weren't ready to hear it? I unlock the door to my new Portland condo, the key sliding into place with a satisfying click. 1 year after that Christmas revelation, my life stands transformed not by what others gave me, but by what I finally gave myself permission to matter. Last box, Robert announces. Setting a cardboard container labeled books on the bamboo floor, I selected myself. His steady presence these past months has become a comfort I never knew I needed. Not rescue, but partnership. I trace my fingers along the framed house key mounted on the entryway wall. Beneath it, a simple plaque reads, $18,000, the price of freedom, each dollar representing months of overtime. Careful budgeting, and saying no to family expectations that once consumed me. Department head looks good on you, Aunt Margaret remarks, arranging wildflowers in a ceramic vase I created in pottery class. She touches my shoulder, her eyes crinkling with pride. You built this life brick by brick, Elise. The afternoon sun spills through windows I spent hours selecting, casting golden rectangles across dining table set for 4. Not a grand gathering, but an intentional one, Robert. Aunt Margaret and Juliet will join me for dinner. My terms, my space, my boundaries intact. Dad's text message arrived this morning. Hope the move went well. 5 words representing his struggle to navigate our new reality. Mom calls weekly now. Her conversation careful but increasingly genuine. Small steps toward what might someday become authentic connection. Juliet arrives, carrying a houseplant and a bottle of mid-priced wine. Her designer bags have disappeared, replaced by sensible work attire from her first real job. The apartment hunt is going well, she says, helping me arrange plates on the table. My roommate works in accounting. She's teaching me about budgeting. Her voice holds a newfound humility that sometimes catches me off guard. As Robert helps me hang curtains in the bedroom, his hands steady on the drill, he asks, have you thought about next summer? That cabin on Mount Hood is still available for rent. I smile, no longer afraid of future possibilities. I'd like that, I answer simply. When everyone leaves, I prepare for my first night alone in my new home. I place the Christmas card, that $2 catalyst for change, in a simple frame on my desk. What once symbolized invisibility now represents strength discovered through pain. I open my journal, running my hands across a blank page before writing. Worth is inherent, not earned or granted by others. At school, a young teacher sought me out yesterday, tears streaming down her face after a family gathering where her achievements were dismissed. I recognized that wounded look all too well. Your boundaries aren't selfish, I told her, offering tissues and the validation I once desperately needed myself. My savings account grows steadily, now labeled future dreams instead of emergency fund. The local pottery studio called yesterday about displaying my pieces next month. From my small balcony, I watched the Portland sunset paint the sky in watercolor hues. 1 year ago, I sat in my car, sobbing over a meaningless card. Tonight, I stand surrounded by a life built on my own terms. The gift, I whisper to the evening air, was finding myself. I close my journal, no longer needing external validation to know my value. Turning off the porch light, I walk into rooms furnished with intention and self-respect. Love that must be earned isn't love at all.